understand you much better if I can get...
Who's talking? Happy Halloween! It's that time of the year to bust out your pumpkin, bust them out, like bring them out of the closet or wherever you keep your pumpkins year round. Dust them off and carve them, and your candy corn as well. I don't think you grow those though, although I wish you could. Anyways, so I thought that in the spirit of the season of Halloween, in honor of the new movie that's coming out specifically, I thought we'd do a whole month of Halloween. I want to say that it was planned that I did a whole month of Alien last month. It wasn't, but I'm gonna say it was. So the whole month of September was Alien, and this month the theme is gonna be Halloween. I have quite the challenge ahead of me though, because as it turns out, there's a lot of Halloween movies. I've seen some of them, I watched some for the first time recently to prepare for this video. There were quite a few good ones, quite a few bad ones. So I guess we need to start with the first movie then. Halloween. Halloween was a film that could have easily been bad if it was directed by anyone other than John Carpenter. This is obviously Jamie Lee Curtis's first role, who is the daughter of Janet Leigh from Psycho. Also kind of interesting, there's a character in Psycho named Sam Loomis. That's another thing. Donald Pleasance as Dr. Loomis was amazing. Every actor in this movie, they don't feel like everyone seems like they're real, and that's a big part of why this movie works so well. Could have easily been bad, but it worked due to the actors that were surrounding it, and that amazing score, man, that just amplified it to the max. It's my favorite horror movie themes of all time. I have a similar problem when I was talking about Alien in my last video. It's such a good movie, but there's just not much I want to say on it. It's hard to talk about movies that are actually good for me. Like, it doesn't really make for a rant if I'm ranting about something that's good. I don't know. I mean, I've done it before. I ranted about Aliens for 30 minutes on Prometheus, but I don't really feel like ranting about this movie. It's a great movie, but it's like, I don't know. I feel like there's so much trash ahead of me that I'm sort of anxious to move on to that. So I don't want to feel like I'm leaving this film out, or I'm not giving it a proper amount of attention, because it's an amazing film. I feel like pretty much everyone's seen this movie at least at one point in their life, haven't they? I mean, it's like a tradition. On Halloween, you watch Halloween. Like, all the acting is fantastic. I love the pacing in the movie. It's never boring. There's nothing to critique about it, so it makes it kind of hard to talk about it, I guess. It's just an interesting movie all around. The backstory behind how it started and the whole premise of the movie in general, it's all very fascinating. So I obviously recommend, if you haven't seen it already, but I just think it holds up so well, and all these other movies have just been kind of stacked on it. Felt like they just got worse and worse and worse and worse, like any movie franchise, it feels like. When the original was good, because it didn't have a lot of money and stuff behind it. Yeah, that's a perfect example, was that the movie was made with such a low budget. It was only made with $500,000, which sounds like a lot. A good example of that is the, I think not Age of Ultron, but Infinity War had a budget of about $250 million. So Halloween would have had a 500th of the budget of, and there was a really interesting part that, and I brought this up once again, a lot of stuff I'm bringing up now is stuff that I've already brought up before, but in my Alien Brook rant, I brought up the fact that they didn't have money to reshoot scenes. Everything they filmed, they had to use. Barely anything, if anything, was left on the cutting room floor whenever they put the edit of the movie together, because they couldn't afford to waste shots. Whenever the series got bigger budgets, and it's like, I think that ruined the appeal of this movie, is because John Carpenter and the people around him, when they went into the production of this movie, they didn't have the time or the money to waste time or money. It's a given. If you haven't seen this movie, then this is the perfect month to go see it. The next movie that came out was Halloween 2. This came out 3 years or 2 years after. John Carpenter had ended the series. He ended it on a very ambiguous note with Michael Myers being alive. I thought it was the perfect way to end the movie. Halloween 2 is, it's not a bad movie at all, but it's a very much just a continuation of Halloween. And I love, once again, John Carpenter returned. He wrote this movie. He basically just wrote it to get a paycheck, but he didn't want any involvement in directing it. He ended the movie. He wanted to make one movie and that was it. He wasn't interested in making money or making more films for money, which I can 100% respect. But Halloween 2 picks up on the same night, which I think is really cool. It's just a continuation of Halloween and Halloween 2. They run as basically just one long movie, which is why I always like to watch Halloween and Halloween 2 back to back and watch as if I'm just watching one long movie, because it really is. Halloween 2 picks up right after Halloween ends, and once again Halloween 2 ends with, spoiler alert, but the death of Michael Myers, which I thought was perfect way to end it. Perfect way to end it, like he's gonna stay dead. I thought it was pretty good. There's a lot of dumb moments in it though. The acting is obviously a huge step down. Well, who's the director of this movie, who I forget the name of it, and for the most part he does a pretty good job directing, because he tries to follow John Carpenter's formula, very long, drawn out. There's something missing from it. I can't really explain it. Maybe it's the acting. The acting isn't as interesting. The actors are all just kind of boring. I like the setting of it being in a hospital. I like the idea of the setting of it being in a hospital, but in actuality, it makes for just a very boring movie. The concept is really cool with Laurie Strode being in hospital, but in actuality, in practice, it doesn't work the same. It doesn't feel the same. The final chase scene, they do some similar, but instead of it being Laurie Strode running around the neighborhood, it's her running around the hospital, which in my opinion I think works a little bit better. And she's just running around this building. I think it's a little bit more effective. I like the look of Michael Myers in this movie as well. It's just because the mask that they wore for Halloween 2, because it's the same mask, just over time it got warped, and they had a different actor portraying Michael Myers in this movie as well, so the mask didn't fit the actor the same way. I think it looks still really good, and I really respect the decision to just kill him. John Carpenter, I thought that was a perfect call for him. They wanted to make him another movie. They were probably with the idea that they wanted to make a franchise out of it, and John Carpenter came on and say, okay, all right, one more movie. When this movie, he's gonna die, and it's gonna be the end. And so I like the conclusion. I still like the first movie a lot more, and you don't need the second movie at all, because I think the first movie could be just a standalone thing. There doesn't need to be a continuation after it. But if you want closure, Halloween 2 is a good end to it. Also like the director's decision to not go with any blood in this movie, because it was something that John Carpenter was very against for the first Halloween, was going with the whole blood and gore route. But when Halloween 2 was coming out, due to the popularity of Friday the 13th now, which is basically just a rip-off of Halloween, the director or the company was scared that people wouldn't come to see Halloween 2 if there wasn't any gore or blood. So the director was forced to add that stuff into the movie and reshoots. So I'm a little disappointed about that, because it didn't need any of the blood or the gore. And granted, it's very tame. It was just unnecessary. Watching the first film and going to this film, which was just a lot more bloodier, it just felt kind of weird. Halloween 3, Season of the Witch. So after John Carpenter killed off Michael Myers, they had the decision to make anthology films using the Halloween name. So I'm making a new story with a new cast and stuff for each Halloween movie, which I actually like that idea. I think it's a decent idea. And Halloween 3, I'm on the fence with. It's just, I'm not against the idea of doing that. I like the whole anthology film idea that John Carpenter and I think Deborah Hill came up with. And actually, I just don't like this movie. It has gathered a cult following. Like, there's a lot of people who really love this movie. And I can respect that and understand why people can like this movie, because the whole idea of it's really cool. Like I said, I love the soundtrack. Maybe it's the acting, or a lot of it has to do with the romance. Tom Atkins' character and Stacey Nelkin's. Tom Atkins at the time of filming this was in his late 40s or early 50s. Stacey Nelkin was in her early 20s, I believe. So it was weird, man. It felt really off-putting. I don't know how to explain it. I actually like the use of the gore and the more disturbing elements in this movie as opposed to Halloween 2. Because it actually felt like it fit with the theme of the movie. I didn't feel like all that was like forced into it. I don't know. I think it's okay. It just felt unnecessary, and it definitely sticks out now that it's the only film I have. Due to the fact this film failed so miserably, they ended up scrapping the idea of an anthology series altogether and returned back with the whole Michael Myers theme. So it just feels like it's out of place. A Halloween movie that doesn't star Michael Myers just feels weird. I don't hate the movie, but I definitely don't love it. But I can at least see the appeal of it. Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers. I don't mind this movie at all. I actually like it quite a bit. There are two things come up. The one thing that I hate and the one thing that I love that kind of even this movie out. Danielle Harris and Ellie Cornell as Jamie and Rachel. They really saved this film to me, because after the first Halloween movie, the Halloween became a slasher series, and after this movie in particular, it didn't distance itself from other movies like Friday the 13th. It started to kind of fall in with it, which is the worst thing Halloween could have done, where instead of actually being its own thing, it started trying to fit in with those movies. They thought that that's what the crowd wanted to see, was the gore and the blood and the sex, rather than to be its own series as to what it was before, if that makes sense. So I think this was the last time we got to see like a decent Halloween movie, I guess. Donald Pleasance returns as Sam Loomis. I thought he did a great job. Then we get to the thing that I hated about it though, and the thing I hate was Michael Myers. Obviously, since Halloween 2, he lost his mask, so in this one he's got to get another mask, and he gets the exact same mask, but since it's a new one that he grabs literally off a store shelf, the hair is all fixed, it's all shiny, it's not like gritty or anything. I obviously understand that it's a new mask, like he picked a new mask. I also find it funny that after he lost his mask, he had to go get the exact same mask from a store. He couldn't get a different mask. Like, no reason to vary it up. He just wanted to be the exact same thing for Halloween. I just don't understand going with the same costume every year, you know? It's kind of weird. I switched it up. I completely lost track of what I was saying. Oh, and then he's also like, his physique, rather than being like the kind of the tall, slender, this one, he looks like a football player. He's very muscular. He's built up. He kind of hunches over. I don't like the build of the actor they got to play him. I hated that. I hated that. I hated the ending of it. I thought it was stupid. They just literally, they shoot him down a well. He falls down a well, and then the movie's like, oh, he's dead. It's like, yeah, okay, we're supposed to believe that. That's the big conclusion that Michael Myers was supposed to have. Doubtful. Well, that's not really the ending. The actual ending is Jamie Lloyd, Danielle Harris' character, killing her stepmom with the scissors, wearing the clown mask. At the first time I saw it, I thought it was really weird. After I watched it again, I actually liked it, thought it was cool. Like, oh, it's actually a decent idea. If they were gonna follow up on that, I thought maybe they were like saying that she was destined to be like her uncle. But they don't follow up on that at all. It's just like a one-time. They pretty much just ignore it for the next 2 Halloween movies. Like if they're gonna take a risk and make an ending like that, you could at least follow up on it. And the series can only go downhill from here because next is Halloween 5: The Revenge of Michael Myers. This is probably one of the worst, if not the worst, Halloween movie. Halloween Resurrection kind of gives it a run for its money, but this one is very close. The Mask, if you thought it couldn't get worse from Halloween 4, it gets even worse than this one. They completely ruined the only thing that I loved about Halloween 4, which was Rachel and Jamie, by making Rachel a completely different character in this movie and then killing her off not even halfway through. So you're like, oh, okay. Jamie doesn't even speak in the movie at all. Danielle Harris was probably one of the best child actors. And I think it was a weird idea to make it where she couldn't talk in this movie at all. Sam Loomis feels really weird and out of place. He uses Jamie as bait for Michael. In like the house scene, the whole last act, it was really weird, like an out of character for him. In the fourth one, he was all about trying to protect her, and this one, he's literally just grabbing her and using her as bait to lure Michael into a trap. And you're like, the story is completely absurd, and it just completely lost me. It's a horrible movie, because at least I can say this next film actually committed to what it was. This one didn't. It was like on the fence whether it wanted to be just a dumb Friday the 13th movie clone, or if it wanted to try for something different and unique, which it kind of stayed on the fence with. And that's probably why I hate it more than this next film. The next film, of course, is The Curse of Michael Myers. So Halloween 5 kind of did a bunch of weird stuff with like this whole thorn thing, like a whole cult. It's a whole weird thing, the subplot they kind of had in Halloween 5 that this film picked up on, but then after it kind of committed to just the absurd, then they went back and re-edited it into just basically another Halloween 5 clone. It's kind of hard to explain, but there's 2 versions of this movie. There's Halloween: The Curse of Michael Myers and Halloween 6 producer's cut. The producer's cut is basically, it commits this whole thorn cult and the Man in Black, and it's a really weird, dumb movie. I hate this. It's also Paul Rudd. The first time, I didn't even know Paul Rudd. This is one of Paul Rudd's first. It was either his first like breakout role, and it's a bad movie to come out on. Paul Rudd, obviously Ant-Man is what I know him for now. Anchorman. I've seen both versions. I hate both versions. I think they're both ridiculously dumb. But The Curse of Michael Myers theatrical version, the normal theatrical version of The Curse of Michael Myers, is horrible. There is nothing I like about it at all. And in my opinion, it's actually worse than Revenge of Michael Myers. But the producer's cut, I can at least praise for sticking with the absurd and just making a crazy movie that at least tried something different, I guess. That's really the only thing I can say about it. Because regardless, it's ridiculously stupid. Halloween 5 never committed to this crazy idea. Halloween 6 did. They tried to re-edit it and go the safe route. By going the safe route, they made a movie that once again didn't make any sense. Halloween movies literally steadily just declined as they went on. With the exception of Halloween 4, which I actually like a lot more than a lot of people do. Halloween 5 and 6 are complete trash and not worth watching at all. Season of the Witch, probably worth watching, just so you can get a different opinion on it. Halloween 1 for sure is worth watching. Halloween 2, if you want closure to the first Halloween movie, or you can just ignore all this and watch the first Halloween movie because that's the best. Anyways, with that being said, we have a lot more movies to cover. Next week we'll talk about H2O, Resurrection, and the Rob Zombie remakes. It all leads up to the release of Halloween 2018. I have to call it that because now there will be 3 Halloween movies. Like Halloween movies titled Halloween, all starring Michael Myers. Halloween 1978, Halloween 2007, the Rob Zombie remake, and now Halloween 2018. Now it's like whenever you say Halloween, people are going to be like, which one? Thank you guys so much for watching. Leave a like if you enjoyed this video. Subscribe if you want to see more. I'll have more videos coming out for you guys soon. And until then, I'll talk to you guys later. Peace out.
Pulled up, tell him pull the curtain, roll 2, no 3, got a 5th of bourbon, got 4 bitches that shepherd German, that I want the brain from, I need the learning, they told us all